More good news this week for Bernie Sanders, who is not only winning over Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire, but is now rapidly catching up with her in Iowa as well, although there are some important caveats that most news outlets seem to be missing in their reporting on these newest polls. But first, the results. Clinton is still winning with 37% support, according to the Des Moines Register Bloomberg Politics poll, but Sanders is close behind at 30%. The same poll in May had Clinton at 57% to Sanders at 16%. So you see more than half making up for the previous deficit that he had there. Bear in mind also that Vice President Joe Biden, who has not yet decided whether to enter the race, garnered 14% support. He had gotten 8% back in May. And I love that they just keep putting people in the polls month after month after month after month, even though they don't enter the race.
I know.
It's funny how they do that, but I'm sure it doesn't affect the results at all.
I mean, it's ridiculous that they do that because we want accurate results. And when you put people in there that aren't actually going to run for president, then it skews the results.
Yeah.
But I think that this is good news in that obviously we like Bernie Sanders. I would prefer Bernie Sanders win the Democratic ticket over Hillary Clinton. The numbers are skewed, so I don't know how realistic they are. But this is good because you see that he's gaining more and more momentum. At first, there was absolutely no chance that he could win, but I feel like as we get closer to the primaries, there's a big possibility that he could. I think that the media needs to stop covering him in this skeptical way and start pushing him if they support him.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. It was very similar to what happened last time. You know, people are making that same, and Hillary Clinton tries to push back by saying, we're so different than we were last time. Really? You're totally different than you were last time?
Not really.
So I know. So she's trying to push back. But the interesting thing also is that Bernie Sanders is winning them over. It's not anti-Hillary votes,
yes.
right? So that the people, 96% of them said that they're for Bernie Sanders based on his ideas. It's not a vote against Hillary, which is a big deal, I think, right?
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
And just 2% saying it's I screw Hillary Clinton. I'd rather choose Bernie. It's
Yes.
much more the ideas. Yeah.
And, you know, they say that, you know, they like to say Bernie can't be elected, Bernie can't be. Let's remember it was pretty close to the same numbers last time with Obama and Hillary Clinton. And who thought that a black guy with a Muslim name could be elected president, right?
Exactly.
I think that's a good point.
A Jewish guy with a Brooklyn accent from Vermont has a much better chance than a black guy with a Muslim name from Kenya.
Yeah, exactly. From Kenya, yes.
That's what they thought. They thought he was from Kenya.
Yeah.
They figured out he was from somewhere else.
Totally true. And look, I have to admit that every time we talk about these polls and we focus as we have to, as everyone does in Iowa and New Hampshire, I am incredibly frustrated and continue to be with the fact that we set up our primaries in this way, that we give disproportional support. I mean, look, I got nothing against Iowa. New Hampshire seems like a lovely place. They don't seem to be the most representative of the entirety of America, but for some reason, your ability to go there and give a disproportionate amount of your time to doing town halls and stuff is supposed to be an accurate representation of how you'd be as president and how electable you'd be as president, and it doesn't seem to actually do anything like that. But we're really fast, though. I do want to make one point, though. When I talked earlier about the fact that the mainstream coverage of this seemed to be missing something, I'm going to have to reference a story that we did a week ago. So here you have Clinton up 7 points over Sanders, which is great news. You also have Biden going from 8 to 14% support. Now, it's entirely possible that's 14 points higher than he should actually have, since he's not actually running right now. But it's certainly 6 points higher than before, and we know from a previous story we did that his support comes almost wholly from Hillary Clinton, which means that that's 6 points that she probably would have if they hadn't included him. 14 total points she might have, which would turn his being down by 7 to 13 or 23, and suddenly it's not as exciting a headline anymore.
True. The part of the story that frustrates me the most is the way people react to Hillary Clinton, right? I feel like there are Democrats who will support Hillary Clinton to a fault. It doesn't matter what her policy ideas, it doesn't matter if she is a corporatist, if she's not actually going to look out for the best interests of the middle class or the working class. Hillary Clinton is the person they're going to vote for regardless of what her policy ideas are because they want to support the strong Democratic candidate. But at the same time, if they just take a step back, right, and they unwire their brains and allow themselves to listen to the policy ideas, Bernie Sanders is a much better representative of progressive ideals, policies. I mean, it's incredible that, you know, first of all, you have the media who just keeps denying that he has a chance. And I think that that snowballs into constituents thinking, okay, well, since he doesn't have a chance, I'm just going to support Hillary to a fault.
Yeah.
Don't believe that. Because as you mentioned, Jimmy, I mean, things changed very rapidly when it came to Hillary versus Obama. No one thought Obama had a chance, and then before you know it, he was dominating in the primaries.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. Listen, we elected a black guy with a Muslim name after the biggest terrorist attack this country. It can happen. Bernie Sanders could happen. How great would that be to see Bernie Sanders win the primary in Iowa, then go on a new? So I think that's going to happen. It looks like it. I don't understand. Johnny, you brought up. How is it that Iowa, Vermont, how did they get to be New Hampshire, how did they get to be the first stops on the, is it just random that they pick it that way, or?
I mean, partly it's a legacy of the fact that early on, that's how they did it, maybe with the intention that eventually it would rotate, but it becomes this sort of ongoing bargaining process between the individual states and the party organization at the national level, where they say, if we don't have this position, then they'll use various tactics against them. It doesn't seem to me like the party has much to lose by shaking it up. But to some extent also, you have to imagine that in this case, for instance, we're going to talk about very soon how the party as a whole is sort of structuring things to try to benefit Hillary Clinton. In many cases, it's to the party's benefit to have this thing wrapped up quickly. That you don't want to have this long, drawn-out thing where all the resources go into multiple candidates who waste it attacking each other and making the candidate look worse. It could be better from the party's point of view if they just lock down somebody in month one and then begin to fundraise for them for a year and a half or however long the campaign season works. And so even if part of the party structure doesn't like the way things are set up, I think that they have a vested interest in continuing it. Yeah.
Okay.
But one other thing I do want to say, just again, I have no idea if this has anything to do, it certainly doesn't have to do with this poll, though it might have to do with Iowa. I saw today the news, very exciting news, that Hillary Clinton is going to be supporting legislation in the future, she said, that would stop Wall Street bankers from getting golden parachutes if they move into federal jobs. Which, that's good. Let's do that, assuming it's even legal to do that. That certainly seems like a good thing. Doesn't seem like the sort of thing that she probably would have backed 6 months ago. Maybe I'm being cynical.
Isn't there something strange about the fact that she sporadically gives us information about what she would do if she was elected president of the United States? I mean, Bernie Sanders is giving speech after speech, giving very comprehensive, detailed arguments about what his policies are, why they would work, and at the same time, Hillary Clinton doesn't want to speak to the press. She doesn't want to talk about her policy ideas. She'll give us a little bit like, oh yeah, I'll go after the wealthy a little bit. Vote for me. I mean, come on. The lack of transparency is honestly what bothered me the most about the Obama administration, and if Hillary gets elected, I feel like it's just going to be a continuation of that.
Yeah. No doubt about it. So what you're saying is that what she's backing is so when Hank Paulson left Goldman Sachs and he went to work for the George Bush administration as the Secretary of Treasury, he got $700 million when he quit.
In a lump sum?
I don't know how he got that, but it was
probably a combination of stocks and money, I would imagine, with that number. But
so that's what so what is he not going to, that's what he had built up over the years, then he takes it all out when he leaves. They're not going to be able to do that anymore?
Yeah, look, from the initial news about it didn't give very clear ideas of how exactly they would manage that.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I mean, I guess the idea is supposed to be, you already have on the other side laws to sort of stop people from immediately moving from government positions into lobbying, but you can go the other direction immediately into government. You have to provide disincentives for people to do either, basically, because you don't want that. Well, I should say, a lot of the elites in the country do want that sort of mixing the revolving door, but I don't think regular people do, because it very rarely seems like, oh, they're just being brought in for their expertise, they're the best person for the job, and it more seems like they provide benefits when they're in government for the companies, and then when they move into the companies, they get paid off for the benefits they provided.
Yeah, it's
certainly good for them and their kids. Doesn't really seem good for the American people.
Another name for that is corruption.
It is, yeah. No, but that's other countries.
That's not our
America.
Yeah, really? You mean
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You mean the agencies regulating the business got corrupted by the money in the business, and they got? I can't believe that happened.
I heard this. There was a very brave politician who was talking about that recently. It was Donald Trump. Doesn't want to fix it, but is acknowledging that it's the case.